My name's Andrew Byrne. I'm Professor of English, Media and Drama at University College London, and I'm a former teacher of media and film in English secondary schools as well. I'm delighted to be chairing this morning's panel on film education in East Asia. It's a panel we've been hoping to convene for some time, and I'm grateful to our guests for helping us to bring it about. We in the West have always been acutely aware of the rich history of filmmaking in China, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, how it represents the histories, the struggles, diverse identities and cultures of those and other countries. How it constructs a rather different version of the divide between art house and popular cinema. How it responds to movement, change and power in its varied societies. We also have some sense of how it speaks to film traditions in the West, how it influences them, how it draws on them, sometimes positions itself across the East-West divide. For my part, though, I always see this culture, inevitably perhaps, as an outsider. And I'm also an outsider when it comes to the question of film education in these regions. Actually, my education by former students from these countries in our master's and PhD programs has given me a better sense of media education practice and policy in East Asia than film education, strictly speaking. And I've sometimes felt that these models of media education and media literacy don't always include the importance of the cultural form of film in the way that's often the case in my own country and perhaps more generally across Europe. So I'm looking forward enormously to hearing the experiences, expertise and the insights that our four guests bring to us and the exciting film education projects in their respective countries that they're going to tell us about. They're each going to present for up to 15 minutes. There are 3 presentations, but 2 presenters from South Korea. So this will allow us a little time for questions and answers after each presentation, and then some time at the end for a general discussion. So without more ado, I would like to welcome our first guest, Dr. Xu Hang from China. She is an associate professor of the China Film Culture Research Institute at the Beijing Film Academy. She received her PhD from Beijing Normal University in 2009. Her research interests include youth culture, film fandom, and film education. She's currently working on a research project about film literacy, funded by the Beijing Municipal Education Commission. Xu Hang, over to you. You need to unmute.
Hello everybody. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share with you some of the film education practice in China, in mainland China. And first, let me share my slides. Okay. First of all, I would like to make it clear that my speech today is mainly concerned with liberal film education, or let's say general film education, which is aimed at non-film, non-professional non-film major students in universities, primary and secondary school students, film lovers, online video producers, and so on. My lecture today is based on the result of a project on film education that I have been working on the past few years, supported by Beijing Municipal Education Commission. Before we get started, it's are necessary to give you two important pieces of background information. First, there has been a shift in the direction of higher film education in China. According to Professor Pan Ruojian of Beijing Film Academy, since 2000, film education in China has evolved from elite education to general education. During this period, the number of students enrolled in professional higher institutions, like BFA, the numbers of the students began to expand, and more universities established film-related majors. Unlike elite education, which aim to train top creative talents, the goal of general education is to produce top creative talent and competent professionals. And in this former Soviet-inspired higher education system, most graduates from specialized institutions, let's say as BFA, they were assigned to film-related jobs. But following the shift in the direction of domestic higher film education, many students educated in film do not pursue film-related careers after their graduation. And secondly, the media environment has changed. With the development of mobile internet and social media, video works are becoming more and more popular. The public is also enthusiastic about creating videos. Again, this background, film education began to expand its scope once again. More and more non-professionals are beginning to create films. Now I will introduce the film education in China from three aspects: university education, primary and secondary school education, and public education. First is the film education in non-film majors at comprehensive universities. Since 2000, more and more universities have offered courses in film, while more and more disciplines such as education, history, anthropology, and sociology, they have offered film-related courses to help students better document and reflect on their own majors. In this process, some universities began to offer film production classes for the whole universities through the film departments. Okay, let's look at a case. The School of Art and Communication at Beijing Normal University has opened a common elective course on microfilm production for all postgraduate students in the university. In the class, students from different majors can learn filming, editing, and other filmmaking skills, and make their own microfilms. At the end of the semester, the students who take the course include those majoring in education and psychology. Some of them, they are involved in volunteer teaching and wish to use film to in their educational practice. And some others, they use films to assist their experiments. And some, they want to make their own vlogs. In the photos on the slides, the students, they are practicing a short verse short. And here are the students practicing editing on their computers. Second is the film education in primary and secondary schools. At the end of 2018, an important document has been issued by the government. It's the guidance on strengthening film and television education in primary and secondary schools. which propose to largely universalize film and television education in primary and secondary school across China in 3 to 5 years. And here's a case, the Beijing Film Academy's project entitled University Involvement in Primary Education. And the Beijing Film Academy assigned cooperation agreements with 5 primary schools, assisting these primary schools to run art courses in photography, microfilming, animated films, acting, and Beijing opera dramas. The photo shows our teachers and our MA students giving film classes in primary schools and help the students to make their own animation videos. It's a very short one. I'll show you here. Yeah, tricks like this. And here's the second case. Film festival organized by Renmin University of China High School. The high school affiliate to Renmin University is one of the top high schools in China. Prior to the pandemic, the school's film festival had been held for 12 years. In 1917, for example, there were 33 students' films competing in the festival. And these are the posters of those student films, where we can clearly see signs of imitation, but also some ingenuity of the students. The school said they provide only 2 things for the students. One is an environment encouraging creative practice of students. The second is some of the most basic facilities. The students may seek guidance from their teachers, but the main work is done by themselves. And these are the photos of their award ceremony. And red carpet. The third is public education. Public education mainly consists of general film education by public art institutions and online commercial and non-commercial film training. The first case is about our China National Film Museum. And the museum organizes social education activities such as film lectures and film knowledge club to publicize basic film knowledge. They also host regular film knowledge club, Family Day, which use film as a tool for students and young people to gain knowledge in a fun and relaxing environment. We are looking at a Family Day activity called with the theme of wonderful film music. And in recent years, several commercial-based film training institutions have sprung up, including Sun Hello and Postway Film. These institutions often invite prominent figures in the industry to give lectures and provide a wide range of courses, offering the opportunity for ordinary people to gain access to film and television expertise. This is a selection of the courses offered in their film education section. We can see that there is a wide range of courses covering filmmaking and film marketing, film shooting techniques, acting and characterization, and colors in digital video. And I'd like to give a summary of the current liberal arts education on film in China. Currently, the education is mainly conducted from two dimensions: school education and social education. In terms of school film education, first, the film education provided by school still lacks systematic teaching. There is a need to develop a different education for students of different ages and levels. And actually, we are learning from British Film Institute. One of my MA students, she has finished her dissertation on the Into Film project of the British Film Institution, and but we still need to do some change to suit the situation in China. Second, teaching materials should be formulated to match different courses, so the teaching is well supported. And third, the teachers are very important. The teacher's own knowledge on film teaching philosophy and methods will directly affect the delivery of the knowledge. And fourth, there are still very few creative courses in school film education compared to film appreciation courses. There is a need to upgrade both equipment and faculty in this regard. And in terms of social film education, the public art institutions supported by the government, supported by the government tend to be less focused on creative courses, and online commercial training institutions are more focused on technical training for trainees. The emergence of commercial training institutions reflect the public's desire to learn professional film and television techniques. If such institution can develop in a well-regular manner, there will be a valuable complement to general film education. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. Questions and comments are welcomed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Xu Hang. Thank you. So, do we have any questions? I think Rob and Flip, do you want to just remind people how they can ask questions?
Yes, no worries, Andrew. Yes, folks, you can use the Q&A or the chat to ask questions for the panelists. And when you ask your question, let us know if you'd like to speak it to camera, and we can bring you up on the screen to have a bit more of a dialogue.
Would be very nice to have questions with open cameras. That's great to see people interacting with our guests. Thank you once again to Xu Hang. While we're waiting, I mean, I have many questions, but I'll just ask one. I very much appreciate the point you make about the need to make these early interventions more systematic and more differentiated to meet the needs of different age groups, different levels of learning, and that you've looked at the British Film Institute's efforts over many years to provide structures of this kind. Of course, the problem we have in this country, and we know also from our research across Europe, is that even if we provide good advice and good guidance and good systems, we know that only a minority of schools will adopt these strategies. Do you think in China there's any likelihood that film education of this kind could be built into the mandatory curriculum, the official curriculum? Ah, you're on mute, Siu Hang.
Oh, I'm on mute again. Yeah, just as you said, I think if we offered, because we still have not offered a systematic course for different students, for different schools and students to practice, if we could offer such a course for them, I think it's still a little bit difficult for all the students and the schools to practice on this, because the practice has been developed, the film education practice has been developed in large cities such as Beijing, Shanghai, but in many towns, because China is a very big, huge country. Most students from the towns, I don't think they have the opportunity just right now to get access to film education, and it's still a long way. It's a situation of this country.
Yeah, I understand. I have one more quick question, if I may, which is, I was interested to notice your emphasis on the ability of the students to determine what kind of films they make. And I'm thinking of the Chinese students we have on our master's program. We have many Chinese students on our master's program, and there's a kind of tension. Some of them want to represent contemporary urban life, you know, popular culture, urban life, social media, game show culture, Korean music, and so on, K-pop. But there are also ones who want to kind of engage with the history of China, you know, the romantic stories of, you know, warrior culture in ancient China and so on. Do you find there's both of these trends in China, that young people want to, some young people want to engage with the romantic, nostalgic past, and some people want to engage with the contemporary urban moment?
Yeah, yeah, it's a situation here. I think it's good to hear, like they like to the traditional things. Yeah, it's things that happen here. You are very familiar with what happened in China.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Rob, have we got any questions from audience?
We haven't had any come through so far. We might have time at the end of all the presentations for some more questions. So just remember, folks, to use the Q&A or the chat, and let me know if you'd like to speak the question on camera.
Okay. In that case, perhaps we'll move on, and we'll pick up more questions at the end from the audience. Thank you once again to Siu Hang. Very nice. We learned a lot, I think.
Thank you.
Okay, so everybody, we're now going to move to South Korea. I mean, literally to South Korea, because that's where they are. And we have a joint presentation. So the first part of this is from Aramchan Lee. So Dr. Lee is an assistant professor of film studies at Mokwon University. He's the author of Film Education, Theory and Practice, Communication Books, which is from 2005, and also Film Literacy, which is coming soon. Look out for it. And he's also, I noticed, written on representations of masculinity in South Korean cinema. Aramchan is going to do the first presentation, as I said, on film education in South Korea, focusing on the Korea Arts and Culture Education Service. Over to you, Aramchan.
Okay, thank you, introducing me, Andrew. Let me share my slides. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Aramchan Lee from South Korea. Yeah. Today I will talk about the film education in South Korea. Okay. Even though the film education programs in South Korea have been conducted both within and outside formal education, researchers have traditionally treated them as a phenomena strongly connected with the schooling system. But we
Sorry
have
to sorry to interrupt, Aramchan. We can't see your slides yet. Do
Oh,
you?
sorry.
That's okay. Sorry to stop you. I'm resetting the clock.
Okay, let me read again. Can you see that?
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Sorry. There is a problem. Sorry. Actually, it works, but okay.
We could see it for a while. Now it's disappeared again.
Yeah.
It's back.
Yeah. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Lovely. Yeah. But we have never provided film education for primary and secondary school students. People the CASAS established in 2005. So we will go into more detail on this in a moment. So yeah, the CASAS is very important to for the Korean film education. So also we have the Korean Film Councils. You can see it. Korean Film Council launched 2 film education programs, one for adults and the other for children. So now, I mean, they just started 3 years ago, so not many schools joined this program. But anyway, the film education for primary and secondary school students joined this one, and in Busan and Jeonju. You know that the Busan and Jeonju have the famous and the film festival, as you know. Also, we have some specialized high schools. They offers the film education. You can see on the arts high school, film high school, broadcasting high school, media high school. And Hyunwoo will, talk about the broadcasting high school later. Also, the Seoul Metropolitan Office of Education runs one program, which is the art education, including film, drama, and musical. Yeah. Yeah, CASAS established in 2005 to launch national arts and cultural education. CASAS is a public agency under the Ministry of Culture, Sports, and Tourism of South Korea. The main project of the CASAS are the training arts and cultural education professionals, allocating them to the public schools and community nationwide, conducting research and development in arts and culture, educational materials, and the statistics curriculum and performance evaluation, and collaborating with the international institution. About 2.5 million students had joined in the CASAS programs in 2020. It's a half of the all Korean students. CASAS for children and youth. CASAS provides the children and youth with the opportunity to discover the joy of participating in arts activities to help build more emotional intelligence and to cultivate creativity. Yeah. Also, they have many other programs. The teaching arts in school. This is the main program for them. And also they have the Arts Flower Seed School, including, there is a film as well. And the Orchestra of Dreams, is as known as the Air System Korea. It's about, the music. So they have all different arts. Teaching artists in schools, yeah. So the consists and support activities for arts and cultural education by visiting or placing teaching artists in almost 9,000 elementary schools and middle and high schools in 70 cities and provinces across the South Korea. CASES provide 8 arts. Yeah, drama is quite big portion of their business, and the film is not quite big enough. Anyway, they have the animation, dance, design, photography, crafts, and finally, the Korean traditional music. Yeah, the goal of this program is to create an educational environment. Okay, yeah, and then I'm going to show you some short video clips. That this video clip about the teaching film in schools.
다른 데에서는 잘 하지 못하는 걸 학교에서 이렇게 직접 체험해보고 잘하는 것과 조금 부족해서 노력해야 할 점 다 찾아줄 수 있고.
제발! 카메라! 액션!
영화 촬영은 저희가 직접 움직여서 할 수 있고 촬영하고 편집하고 스트레스 달랠 수 있는 수업? 문제점, 좋은 점 이런 것들을 얘기를 바탕으로 해서 같이 생각해 볼 수 있는 기회가 될 것 같아요. 이런 영화 수업을 만들어서 함께 참여하고 협동하는 게 너무 기대돼요. 6교시 만에 기다리고 있었어요. 친구들이랑 의견을 조율해서 완성된 작품을 딱 보는 순간이 제일 뿌듯한 것 같아요.
Yeah, CASES and provides and the teaching film in schools as almost 417 schools and 225 teaching artists. They, teach films at school in 2017, and 50 students joined this program in 2017. It's not the exact, it's an estimated number. So it's very small portion of students in Korea. Only 50 students joined this film education. When you compare the other art, for example, the drama is 10 times bigger than film education. So almost, the 500,000 students joined the drama education program. Okay, final page. And film education statistics and supported by CASES. So you can see the schools, and this is the year. So the film studies, film education started in 2005. So you can see there are 148 schools and then 95 teaching artists. This point, it goes up dramatically, but after that, the number of the teaching artists and the schools almost and very steady. So it's not much on the difference. So you can see this and the statistics as well. Okay, thanks for having me. I will hand over to Hyunwoo for more about Korean film education in details. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hyunwoo. Okay, I'm gonna. Sorry. Where?
I was going to introduce you, Hyunwoo, so I'll just interrupt for a moment to say that Hyunwoo Park is she's a teacher of film and theatre art at Seoul Broadcasting High School. She did her master's degree in digital media, culture and education, I'm very proud to say, at UCL Institute of Education, actually in the class which I had the great pleasure of teaching. And Mark Reed from the British Film Institute was also a teacher there, and I think was your project supervisor, Hyunwoo, as well. Her interests include filmmaking and digital media culture of South Korean youth. And she is authoring with Aramchan, she's authoring a textbook authorized by the Seoul Metropolitan Office of Education, Film Appreciation and Criticism. So Hyunwoo is going to look at curricular filmmaking in Seoul Broadcasting High School. That's a case study.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, so I'm Hyunwoo Park. My presentation is about how film education is exercised in individual schools with an example of a high school where I work. This presentation will explain about the students' filmmaking activities related to the school curriculum. So Seoul Broadcasting High School is a vocational high school affiliated to Seoul Metropolitan Office of Education, and it is located in central Seoul. So when I say public school in Korea, it means not only about budget funding, but also about teacher recruitment. Teachers of the office can be assigned to any middle school, general high school, or art school as well. In every 5 years. So both public and private are to follow the general guidelines of the national curriculum. So there can be hardly a difference between public and private schools in curriculum and their school management. As my school is categorized as a vocational high school, it plans its curriculum by choosing from the suggested vocational subject groups. In the Seoul Metropolitan Office of Education, there are 7 or 8 more vocational high school which deals with students who dreams of filmmaking. However, most of those teaching filmmaking are all alongside with other industrial departments such as commerce, engineering, and so on. So the school I work is in quite a unique position as all departments have focused on the film and theatrical field. So in this school, there are 4 different departments. Those of 2 focus more on filmmaking than the others, and the other 2 departments focus more on stage technique and acting. But still, they make videos as a regular curriculum. So it's arguable whether filmmaking technique is a part of vocational education. But there are filmmaking departments also in art high schools in Korea, but the biggest difference is the tuition fee, I think. So students in art school, which are categorized in the specialized school, need to pay way higher expense. So I attached some accessible video links for looking into school. So please download the slide from the chat if you want to see more about the school. So there are some screenshots from the linked video introducing the school activities. Mostly the students of Seoul Broadcasting High School are fanatic in K-pop and film culture. So as you may have noticed, K-pop and Korea films are the most influential in the world ever in their histories. So it seems these cultures influence a lot on students' life decisions, like intrinsic motivation. So they come to devote themselves to be part of it. Another distinctive point is that so-called YouTubers. Many of the students of the school want to be producers or entertainers of YouTube videos. There are some students who already have accumulated quite many subscribers on their channels even before high school. Speaking about their filming activities before high school, they have absolutely increased opportunity in respect of making movies in middle school in the past decade. Because policymakers of the Seoul Metropolitan Office have conducted so-called cooperate and synthetic art activity, which makes every middle school student in Seoul get engaged in theatrical work or filmmaking at least once in their curriculum. It has started 5 years ago, and also increasingly there were possible chances for schools to engage in film education in cooperation with education programs out of school, like Aram-chan just mentioned, KACES. There are some mandatory test-free term during the 3 years of middle school. It is to free students of the burden of tests and to enable them to engage in career planning or creative activities. There is a compulsory session named Creative Experimental Activity, which demands students' voluntary participation in creative activities, which is allocated 4 hours in every week. So here is the course of study of the school spread over 3 years. There are 2 primary categories in subject. One is general and the other is vocational. So you're now seeing general subject. While subtotal credit of general subject are 78, you can see below, vocational subject are 98. So however, as you can see in the case of the first department shown above, it's not that all vocational subjects are related to film techniques. As I said, the curriculum subjects are from the suggested vocational subject group. Some of nearly 1/3 these subjects are about primary vocational training, like successful career life and so on. So I believe that filmmaking practice in school doesn't need to aim for the professional education or vocational training, but as a result of the school's curriculum focus, many of the students find the school offers a lot of support to them, and the school lives are more meaningful to them. I guess the biggest support from the school may be the facilities, and the shared interest with fellow students is also important to them. Many of them autonomously join in filmmaking groups in the school in and out of curriculum. For instance, there are several film societies in the school, and they make films after school or during vacations. They are guided by the school teachers, the school seniors, or teachers from the field. There are several film competition plus performance competition every year. The biggest one is held at the end of the academic year, the end of second term. It is as big as, it takes 2 days for the event. The second biggest one is held at the end of first term. The student council organizes the event from the beginning to the end, including production design and technical procedure. And smaller competitions are held by each department or by subjects. For instance, an anti-smoking film competition or book trailer competitions. So there are some students who didn't want to screen their work in competitions, so they open a preview screening in school before they release it on YouTube. And so I posted some of pamphlet of the event, so you can skim over. This one is the second biggest screening event in the school. These lists are finalists that got through the preliminaries by the student council. And the left one is for the film competition held at the end of the year. There were 20 film societies and class groups that submitted their work. The right one is the finalist for the performance show. The below pages are to give credit to the staff students who prepare the show and competitions. So when we look through how students are autonomous in filmmaking and screening in this school, I think there are some great points that film education in schools can, well, enhance students' civic engagement as well as active participation in school activity. So this includes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hyun-woo, and thank you, Aram Chan, for that picture of film education in Korea. Very exciting, South Korea. Okay, we'll wait for a few moments, see if any members of the audience have any questions that Rob or Flip can pick up. I notice there's a couple of our former MA students in the audience now, maybe former classmates of yours, Hyun-woo, I'm not sure. Meanwhile, I have a question. I was interested that, I mean, I'm always looking for kind of cultural spectrums, cultural tensions and so on in media and film education. And I noticed that on the one hand, you know, you're both referring to kind of contemporary popular culture here, again, in the form of kind of, you know, K-pop culture, YouTubing culture, and the way in which filmmaking, certainly for ordinary people, has become, you know, a routine part of popular culture, participatory media, and so on. But then you've also got some notes here which suggest a more traditional approach to art house film culture, for example. So I notice, Hyun-woo, that there's also a class on film criticism and film appreciation in your school, and Aram Chan, I noticed that the cases program includes some kind of traditional Korean music and so on. So I'm wondering if you both, you know, do you feel some tension between traditional culture and contemporary popular culture? Do you find your students kind of manage this transition, or do they incline one way or another? Both of you.
For me, in the high school, there is some interesting situation between teachers and students, because students think that teachers are really stubborn because they really have willing to stick on traditional classic film materials, and students think that's so old media and it's just things that they're really not interested in.
Okay, so there's a bit of work to do to try to find a dialogue between traditional film culture and modern. Aram Chan, what do you think?
Yeah, but I never, thought to the young students at schools, but I observed many classes in primary and secondary schools. So when I joined, this class, I I felt, I touched it, and the teaching, teaching artists, they use quite contemporary films. Also, and they use sometimes in the webtoon and some YouTube. Yeah, they use a lot of new media to attract the students in film class. So that's why the film education program in Korea is quite well updated. And also very contemporary. So lots of students like to join film education. All right.
Very popular, yeah, and seems to be growing. I remember talking to one of our former PhD students from South Korea a long time ago. This must be maybe 15 years ago, and she was beginning to look at filmmaking in Korean schools, and it was almost non-existent, and now it seems to be growing. Yeah, great. Any questions from audience?
Hi, Andrew. There is a question from David Sorfa, but I think it might be best to the end because I think it will speak to all of the presentations.
Okay, that's great. Is David happy to present it himself?
Yeah.
Okay.
We do have somebody with their hand up, Yulun Sung. I don't know if that means you'd like to ask a question, Yulun. Shall I just promote them to panelists?
Yes, please. Do go for it. Yeah.
They will appear on the screen momentarily.
Hi, morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you. I just want to say it's brilliant, talks, and it's really insightful. Thank you both. Actually, thank you three speakers. My question for Dr. Lee, because South Korea has been very famous for its high up-to-date and high-end technology. So for your institution, do you have the stress or pressure from students asking for the latest technology so they can link to the industry better? When you do the, and then follow on that kind of, pressure from students, do you have pressure from the institution in terms of the budget? Because you can't have this, money to invest the latest technology, updated the cameras, all the equipment. Can you develop a little bit or share a little bit insight in terms of the film education in South Korea? What kind of, freedom and then the resources you have? And then for the Dr. Park, question for you. I would like to know, because it's really lovely to see all the program and your students, and I assume that all the case study from the younger kids, right? Okay, so in that case, and earlier you mentioned about they find a classic or a traditional filmmaking education, they find it boring, but do you notice that actually younger generation, they think about the same thing? Or the subject matter wise, the thing they want to film, the thing they want to do actually always repeated. For instance, my students, they're always trying to do the psycho thriller. And then I just want to tell them, no, please don't give me another Fight Club, please. Do something else, please. And then it's just a really interesting battle. So I want to see that when you teach younger students in the younger age, do we really help them to think differently? Or maybe they always jump back to exactly the cage in terms of, YouTube format or certain kind of things they want to say, but in the end, they just say the same thing altogether. So I kind of rubbling around, but I would like to ask these two speakers. Thank you.
We'll ask Aram Chan to answer your first question, then you with the second question. Just before, can you tell us where you're from and what your work is?
Oh, sorry. I'm the lecturer at London South Bank University, and I teaching in cinematography, and then I'm just kind of in developing my own career right now while I'm doing my freelance work outside the university. Yeah, so that's me.
Thank you very much. Okay,
thank you.
Aramjan.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. In my case, you know, the last, the 3 semesters, I have taught my class, online. So especially, I also use this Zoom meetings as well. So in that case, I bought the camera and microphone for my office and my home, but university, equipped all the classroom have the microphone and camera. So sometimes I can, have a class just, online, but in my office. But sometimes we can do this lecture, in the lecture room, but it also equipped so we can the live streaming our the lecture. So in that case, so we normally update all the equipments. So a university administration to support a lot of things to have a proper lecturing. Yeah, I think that this answer is will be, helpful for you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well,
And Hugh,
I might am able to give more answer about the budget. Well, the annual budget for the equipment for students in my school differs every year, but in 2021, the school is going to spend 70,000 GBP for buying new equipment only for filming and theatrical art. So I think it's really affluent compared to other high schools. I think really government put a lot of budget on vocational education. So, well, I'm one of the beneficiary, I think. And speaking about the material, well, I sometimes introduce the students movies such as Landscape in the Mist. You know the movie Landscape in the Mist, the most boring film ever in my lifetime. Sorry. But anyway, to introduce the students about how long take works. Well, I think that kind of shocks, maybe if I can say that, that kind of shock really works the students because, well, younger students ignore how the classical material is important, but there are some, how can I say, really, well, as you said about Psycho for the thriller, sometimes we need to introduce the heritage for the younger students. It's our job, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for both of you. I just want to say it's really insightful to understand the Korean situation because I believe that Korean model in the filmmaking and then all the cultural influences is quite a successful story for everyone. So thank you for both of you.
Definitely. Thank you very much for your question, Yulan, as well. Okay, I think we must move on now to keep on schedule. So we're going to move from South Korea to Japan. And we're going to ask Etsuko Doi to talk about her project. Etsuko is the founder of Children Meet Cinema, which is a Japanese film education program, which has been running since 2004, developing and exploring the possibilities of workshops involving children with cinema. So both engaging with film, appreciating film, but also making their own films, including workshops with notable film directors from Japan and animators as well, I think. Etsuko is also the president of Cinemonde, an art house cinema in Kanazawa City. So Etsuko, over to you, and Sakino, who will be doing some translating for you when we get to questions. Hello, both.
Hi, it's Etsuko Tohi from Tokyo. Thank you for inviting me to this conference. And please watch the movies that the junior high school students made a little bit. Voilà. Can you see that? Can you see? Yeah. Just 2 minutes worth.
Oh, いいね、いいね。ありがとう。はい。キリン。今日はまず最初に転校生を紹介したいと思います。
You see movies? Okay.
自己紹介。岡山県倉敷市から来ました高橋蘭です。好きなものはアメコミとハンバーガーと映画を見ることです。よろしくお願いします。はい、拍手。じゃあ高橋さんそこに座ってください。じゃあ国語の授業一元テストあるみたいだから。じゃあちょっと。終わった。君も知ってんの？そう。最近読んでる人少ないから、読んでる人いないと思ったけど。僕もこのクラスだけかと思った。お前さ、あいつじゃなくて俺たちと遊んだ方がいいぜ。いや今話してた。うん、知ってる。は？そういう俺たちの関係だから。いやおかしいでしょ。全然おかしくない。普通だよ。いやおかしいでしょ。何？話してるから。は？何言ってんの？
Okay. Okay. I change and I go to my slide. This is for the CCAJ, the Cinéma Saint-Anne de Jeunesse, that I think Madame Bourgeois presented yesterday, and we participated there since 4 years, I think. Okay. This is with me and Akira Kurosawa and Abbas Kiarostami. That is just, yeah. We were in Kurosawa's house when I was very young, and I was a publicist of the film of Kiarostami. Okay. And this is my theater, Cinemonde. in Kanazawa. There's 19 seats. And last year, because of COVID, we forced to close the theater for 2.5 months. But because grace of many fans, we have been able to survive. This year we celebrate our 23rd anniversary. Okay. And I came back to Tokyo in 2001, but I still am the owner of Cinemonde. And in order to make Cinemonde take root in the city, I started the Children Meet Cinema. This is the name of our group. And I started 2004. I got inspiration from Alicia Vega's children's film class in Chilean masterpiece documentary film called 100 Children Are Waiting for the Train. The train is, of course, the Lumiere's train. And okay. The activities of the Student Meet Cinema are divided into 2 categories: workshops and symposiums. We work with various partners to organize our film workshop. For example, the Tokyo International Film Festival, the Agency for Cultural Affairs of Japan, Tokyo University of the Arts, and local government. Once a year, we hold a symposium on film education, where we report on our activities during the year and invite guests to discuss film education as well as gain feedback on our practice. We offer 3 types of workshops. First, we hold visual toy craft workshops in which we make flip books and zoetropes. And secondly, film screening workshops. After the screening, we have the dialogue about the film. And filmmaking workshop. We believe that it's important to cover both appreciation and production. Here, I will talk about the filmmaking workshop. The director, who is the special lecturer, and our staff will have many meetings in advance to decide what kind of film to make. After that, all the work of story making, shooting, and editing will be done by the children. The team includes a team leader who is a film professional and a support staff who mainly works with the children's health and safety. For elementary school students, it takes 3 days. And for junior high school students, it takes 6 to 9 days. And we always have a screening for the audience on the last day. There are 2 important policies in the Children Meet Cinema. The first is that adults should not interfere, should not teach. Children can do most things the same way adults do. They just need time, more time. Therefore, we do not teach how to make films, but rather create an environment where children can go about freely, and we watch with faith as they discover films on their own. Another policy is to let the children meet serious adults. So far, directors such as Hirokazu Koreeda and Nobuhiro Suwa, who are at the forefront of the film industry, have participated as special lecturers in our project, but they don't teach. Our staff are also film professionals. Meeting adults who are serious about film has a big impact on the children. Let me tell you more about it. In the first place, there is no right or wrong answer in the film. Films are free. Everyone in the team talks about how to shoot the film and what kind of the story to tell. And after actual shooting, they come to an agreement. That's the answer. If adults do not give instructions to children, they will start to think with their own head. They will discuss with their peers and solve problems. This experience gives them confidence. They even become more and more ambitious to make more interesting films. They then turn to be real creators instead of playing with films. What makes image unique? That is irreplaceability. The girl in the lower right image is Junhwa, who was 8 years old at that time. What the camera captures is not a girl as the common noun, but the girl named Junhwa. It is Junhwa, not anyone else. I think this expresses the irreplaceable character of images. And in filmmaking too, we place importance on who makes film. If the child who is filming or recording is replaced by a different child, then a different film will be made. Throughout our film class, we keep saying, you are special and this film needs you. Various children comes to our film class. In particular, there are children who have no place at class and children who are excluded. We listen carefully to their voices and keep telling them that you are essential to make this film. When the children are accepted, they will have a sense of self-respect. This will be a great support in their lives. Since 2017, we have participated in the CCAJ, and that was the film that you saw. And this program made us not only the children, but the professional staff learned very much from this program. Yeah. Since 2019, we have been conducting film viewing and production workshops at public elementary schools as a project commissioned by the Agency for Cultural Affairs of Japan. And we have Director Suwa as a special lecturer. Take a look at the making of film at a school. It's okay? You heard the sound?
枚見た映画の中にいろんなものが出てきたと思いますね。いや、思いついたもの全部書いてください。
はい、1枚ください。バルーンだけ入ってる。
どんどん書いて。いっぱい書こうぜ、いっぱい。
階段、階段。
何してた？
人。これも一応。青い風船を持つ。
3、2、はい、終わり。はい、終わりです。ありがとうございます。ちょっと見てください。この紙に今度は今書いてもらった付箋をここに貼ります。映画が向こうから始まりが向こうで、最後ここで終わるっていう時間がこう流れていく紙です。この紙に貼ってください。
これどう？全体の中身。
やっぱりここが一番多いね。
今みんなが書いてくれたみたいにいろんな場面があったりいろんな場所が出てきたよね。いろんな出来事もありました。でその都度風船はどんな気持ちだったのかみんな思い出して映画を思い出して風船の気持ちを書いてください。
次やろ。
気持ちじゃないよ。気持ちじゃないんだよ。4、3、
はい、終了。ただの風船がただの風船じゃなかった。なんか気持ちがあるように見えた。ということは、みんなボールにもその気持ちを感じさせることができるんじゃないか。で、これを使って映画を作ります。ね。
Okay. This after the Mr. Suwa asked after the children write the feeling of red balloon. He said, is in the cinema, is in the film, is this red ball speaks? He asked, and they said no. So why you can understand the feeling of a red balloon? Whose feeling? He asked. It means it's the children's feeling. They put the feeling to this red balloon. It means the audience is not just audience. Audience make the film. Audience complete the film. And and after that, we made the instead of red balloon, we use red ball, and we made a little short movies with the red ball and the adventure of red ball. This is the title of the film, and they must to think how you shoot to make red ball has the emotion. Okay, so the concept of this workshop is transforming the gymnasium to a cinema, and secondly, raising awareness that audience complete films, and third, thinking about how to make something that has no emotion seems to have emotion. Okay. And here is the screener. This is the so you can see the films, entirely films that I showed you at the beginning, and they also the projection in Paris. Okay. So and now I have come to the end of my presentation, and thank you very much to hearing me. Thank you.
Thank you, Etsuko. Thank you very much. So we have some time now for questions from the audience. We can go a little bit over 12 o'clock as well if people are happy to stay. We can go up to maybe 12:15. So we have time for a couple of questions specifically for Etsuko, if people have those, and then some general questions. And I think if we still have David Storfa, he's happy to ask his question on camera as well for all the panelists. So while we wait for any questions, I have a question for Etsuko. Oh, is she still here?
Yes.
Oh yes, there you are. And Sakino, sorry. So I was interested, I think I mentioned in my introduction how, you know, film culture in East Asia does have a kind of awareness of film culture in the West and more or less dialogue with that, you know, both influencing it and influenced by it. I was interested to see here, of course, the strong dialogue with the CCAJ movement and perhaps with French film culture in particular. But I also noticed, of course, the presence of Kurosawa at the beginning of your presentation and the Japanese directors who you've used as film professionals. So my question is, what is the distinctive character of Japanese film culture in your workshops, do you think? Does it include classical works like Kurosawa's films? Does it include, you know, the strong anime tradition of Studio Ghibli, for example? So maybe tell us a little bit more about the Japanese film culture in your workshop.
日本の文化ってことですよね。
ワークショップで取り扱っている日本の映画にはどのような特徴がありますか？例えば黒澤明監督作品のようなクラシックなものまで取り扱うのか、ジブリ作品のような現代的なものを取り扱っているのか、何か特徴はありますか？
ですね、あまりその日本映画を見せるとかあまり考えていなくて、古今東西の私たちが見せたい映画で、鑑賞ワークショップの時に特に映画を見せるんですけれども、そうですね、取り立てて日本映画だからということはあまりないです。子どもたちは字幕であっても理解できるので、なるべく、子どもだから日本語でというふうには考えていないということが一つと、制作ワークショップの時も映画を見るんですけれども、その時は、特別講師の作った映画を見せることが多いです。それはその監督が誰なのか彼らにとっては知らない人だから。
Okay. So in our film appreciation workshop, we don't really stick to Japanese films. We take all the films from all over the places and we usually show them what we want to show them. And we don't really think about, there's a language barriers as long as there's subtitles. We don't really see children unable to understand foreign films. So we don't really stick to Japanese films only. Cover lots of films from all over the places. In a different workshop where we have a special guest, a special, director, professional director, we usually show their films so that students or kids to get to know the director at the workshop.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Okay, I think we've got David on camera now. He's been promoted to the panel, so he's going to ask, I think, a question which can be to any of the participants. Is that right, David?
Yeah, that's right. Hopefully I'm coming through. Thank you all very much. In fact, my question sort of builds on what Atsuko has just said. And it's really a question, I mean, it's fascinating to hear about teaching sort of technical, practical filmmaking skills to younger students. But I'm interested in this question of to what extent film history and film analysis is part of what you teach. And a related question to that is, how interested are these younger pupils in feature films, in, you know, 1 hour and 30-minute long films? And that's linked to careers as well, you know, to what extent. And I think, you know, in Korea, China, Japan as well, you know, it's quite interesting to think about what the industry, the feature film industry is looking for. And I suppose I should just introduce myself as well. I'm David Sorfer. I'm Senior Lecturer in Film Studies at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. And we teach mainly postgraduate students, and it's a purely film theory, film philosophy sort of degree. And the majority of our students are from mainland China. Anyway, so that's me, and that's my question.
Thank you very much, David. So we've got a question there. I think David's picked up that many of you, you know, understandably have focused on practical filmmaking and the agency of young people in that process. So David's asking, you know, do the students have an opportunity to learn about film history and film analysis? Some of you have referred to this. And also, how do they feel about feature films as a distinctive form? I'm going to go back to the beginning and ask Siu Hang, because it's nice to bring back the earlier part of the seminar. So, Siu Hang, what would your answer be to David's question?
Okay, thank you, Andrew, and thank you, David, for your question. In fact, the teaching of film history and appreciation, I think it will be more extensive because it's really relatively easy. I think we will select a list of films suitable for students to watch. But sometimes, you know, for children, if you show them silent films, they will be impatient. They can't stay on their desk. So I think we can organize film screenings, but that's not enough. And it would be better if we could write some books or have some relative introduction websites for all the people who's really interested in film, or people like you guys are really interested in Chinese culture. You can come to see the films. That's all I can think now is this.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to ask Hyun Woo next, because I noticed that there is a class in your school, as I think I mentioned earlier, on film history and, on film analysis, I think. Do you think people teach about film history, and how do they feel about feature films?
Yeah, well, I think rather than film education, media education would be proper to say. Media education is developed from the Korean language education department, of course, but recently media literacy education is really enhanced by policymakers in 5 recent years after my MA finished. But I personally think it's more focused on journalism rather than other media, I think. Also, speaking about film, well, I cannot help myself speaking about technical education recently. Well, but still, like Aramchan said before, there are a lot of opportunities in primary and middle school. Well, they really don't have any film subject in their timetable, but they still have many opportunities to gathered to make film or appreciate film. That's the advance in recent 10 years.
Okay, it's interesting. I think the relationship between media education and media literacy and film education, film literacy, is an interesting one, and which plays out differently in every country, I think. But it would be interesting to come back to that relationship at some point in the future. Aram Chen, do you have anything to add?
Oh yes, thank you, and thank you for the question, David. Yeah, this question, I mean, this problem is quite big issue, quite controversial in Korea as well. Many, I mean, Korean film education just focus on the technical filmmaking. Yeah, so not many they deal with the film history and analysis. Yeah, because as I said before, the Korean the film education in Korea is not the mandatory courses yet. So the teaching artists and the general teacher, they use film for their students' fun. Yeah. So, but in my case, I wrote the secondary school textbook for film studies. But in that case, I mean, it's almost 15 years ago. But at the time, we just, I mean, keep the balances. So 50% of the book about the film history and analysis, and the other 50% was, I mean, the filmmaking. But now the film theory is getting less. Yeah, that's why I'm a little bit worried about the students also need to know the film history and the analysis, but not many, I mean, the classes for those fields in Korea.
Thank you very much. Now, we have another question which is specifically to Etsuko, actually, so we can come back to you now. And this question from Joshua Otabil. Joshua, do you want to ask your question on camera, or would you like us to read it out? Now, Joshua has appeared. This is good.
Hello.
Hello.
So, yeah. Joshua, please ask your question for Etsuko.
Okay. That was a very powerful and interesting presentation.
Thank you.
Very unique way of teaching juveniles how to make films. In fact, the strategy clearly geared towards confidence building of young ones by giving them the equipment to explore and also try to make commentaries about what they have done. I just want to find out if they are given opportunity later to learn from what they have done, or to learn about techniques in producing their films.
Okay, I think if I understand you rightly, Joshua, is this kind of a question about sustainability in a way? You know, we have a workshop, but what's the opportunity after the workshop to continue learning and developing? Is that right?
Well, please say it again.
Well, if I understand your question correctly, you're asking, is it a question about how the learning process is developed and sustained after one-off workshops? So we
Sure.
Okay. So what are there any opportunities for children to continue learning after one workshop? I guess that's the question.
とても面白い活動をされていてユニークだなと思ったんですけれども、その子どもたちがその機材を与えられて自分たちで自由に探求してそれについてコメントし合ったりしながら作品を作った後にその作品について何でしょうかね、振り返る時間、こういうテクニックが使えたねとかについて学ぶ機会はあるんでしょうか。あとそれからアンドリュー先生がなんか付け足していたのは、そのワークショップの後にまたなんかこう学びを続けられるような工夫っていうものはあるんでしょうか。
ですね、まず映画を作りながら、子どもたちだけで放置してるわけじゃなくて、そのプロフェッショナルは何をしてるかっていうと、気づかせるためにいるんですね。なので、何か撮ります。で、撮ったらまずみんなで見ようと。これが最適かどうか見ようと。で、何度も撮り直しもします。で、それは子どもたちがなんか違うねって、何が違うんだろうと言って撮り直す。で、そうやってやるので、一回一回フィードバックしながらやってるような感じがします。で、出来上がってからは、上映会で、特別講師が講評をしたり、あと見てくれた人たちからいろんな感想とか指摘があって、それについてまた子どもたちは自分なりに答えるっていうやり取りがあります。で、アンドリュー先生の話だと、結構リピーターが多いです。小学生向けやった後に中学生向けのをやるとそこに来ます。で、最終的にはもう本当に自分たちで決めて、なんかその進路を映像の方に行ったりする子も出ました。はい。でも、そのフォローアップのためにやってるっていう感じではないかな。来たい子が来るっていう感じです。はい。ガーナから。Thank you.
Okay, so so what we do is that we always have a professional working closely with the pupils. So every time the pupils in a group are making films, the professional gives constantly feedback and also encourage them their own reflections through the process. And the professional always try to encourage kids noticing, raising awareness themselves through the process of filmmaking. And then after the screening, we get feedback and comments from the audience, and we encourage kids to answer the comments themselves. And regarding to Andrew's question, so after what happens after the workshop. Some children got very interested in the field, so they came back to another workshop. For example, we do a workshop for primary school, and then we do the secondary school workshop. The primary school children may join the secondary school workshop sometimes. And there are a few who actually decided to pursue their career in filmmaking and, for example, going to vocational schools.
Thank you very much. That's good to hear. This question of how we develop a kind of progression of learning over time with film education is very difficult because really no country in the world has film education as a mandatory curriculum subject, even in 1 year, across many years. So it's always difficult for us to kind of maintain sustainable learning development. We have one more question from Joanna, which Rob is going to read out, I think.
Hi folks, yeah, Joanna's asked 2 questions. In the interest of time, I'll maybe just read the second one, Joanna, if that's okay. And it is a question aimed towards all speakers. What are some of the things you can do in order to acquaint us with Japanese, Chinese, Korean culture, filmic and otherwise, both contemporary and of the past, so we can find out more about your rich film tradition and be able to appreciate it and ultimately love it?
Okay, there's a challenge to you all. How can you help us to learn more about your national film culture? So let's begin with let's go back to the beginning again and ask Xu Han, what would be the best place to start to learn about Chinese film culture?
I think it's very good question. Maybe many experts in my country are starting this program about the cultural understanding. I think just as I said, I think maybe we could organize film screenings for pupils, or have some websites to introduce our films which related to our history and culture for people all over the world to read and to understand our culture. And what do you think? That's all I can think about this right now.
I'm sure people will find their own way. We've got about 5 minutes left, so we'll have to be quite quick with this. But let's go to Aram Chan. Still.
Can I answer the journalist's first question about the impact of the more extended film education? In my case, film education is also good for film industry because they can be the future customers of film industry when they have the film education at school. Yeah. Also, and we can prevent the illegally downloaded, I mean, the copyright pirates. We can stop. I mean, we just try to, I mean, stop using this kind of stuff for students. So, yeah, this is quite also, I mean, good for film industry. That's why, I mean, film industry in Korea, especially Korea, they like, I mean, educate, I mean, the students in schools. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And Young-woo, 1 minute. How would you introduce us to Korean film?
I believe in fandom. So, well, if we are cinephiles, we learn film and our lives in from Cinematheque, maybe. Well, so have you heard of a term otaku?
Yeah.
It's from Japanese. Yeah, a young person who is really obsessed with some particular cultural aspect. So I oftenly say to my students that you wouldn't never win over otakus if you are not obsessed with something like otaku. Well, so I believe in fandom. Well, so the most important thing from my school is, I think, their shared interest with fellow students. So I think that is most important thing.
Thank you for your recommendation. There's a nice essay, by the way, on otaku culture by Kimi Ishida, who is from Yokohama University. Okay, and finally, Etsuko, how would you advise us to learn about
I already answered to Sakino, so
okay.
Can you?
So I'm coming in here. In terms of how you can learn about, you know, our Japanese culture, film culture and traditional history, that's possible. But first of all, in our case, you know, teaching children, it's important for us to stimulate their curiosity so that they have interest in film first. And for example, if they mention any particular director they like, we can show the films that impacted the director. Other way is to show foreign films so that they naturally you know, have interest in their own Japanese films. as a contrast. And also one of the things which I actually did for my son is to show films from when they're young and little. For example, my son, since he was little, he was watching Kurosawa's films.
Great.
He likes very much.
Good advice, and a good place to finish, maybe. Thank you to everybody for all of your contributions. It's been really fascinating to learn about film education in your countries, and I hope we'll have a chance to hear more about this through submissions to the journal in a future edition, perhaps. And if you also have friends and colleagues who might contribute, please let us know. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you to our audience for attending and for their questions. Thanks, of course, to the organisers of the conference, which continues this afternoon, so don't forget to come back. And after that, everybody have a great weekend. Thank you very much.